What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So this is the juice from Lake Guntersville for the 4th stop on the Major League Fishing Pro circuit on beautiful Lake Guntersville. We're back out on the water here. This is actually the final day of the tournament. The 4th day of the tournament. I was eliminated on day 3. I ended up finishing 25th place. But I want to take you guys through all the tackle that I used to finish 25th place on Lake Guntersville this week. And the juice is presented by Fish USA. So all this tackle I'm about to go over is available directly at fishusa.com. I'm going to have direct links in the description down below. All you got to do is go down there, click those links, and you're able to get all this tackle that I used on Lake Guntersville. So if you guys are ready, let's jump in and I'll show you what I used this week on Guntersville. All right, so, you know, as usual, I had a really tough practice. I found a couple groups of fish out on the ledges, the river ledges, you know, deep fish. They were in about 15 foot of water. It come up from about 25 to 15, and then it flattened out. They were on that ledge right there. So there's a bunch of different baits you can use to catch them. And as you can see, I have all kinds of rods out on the deck. I really just rotated through a bunch of different baits. I sat on one spot pretty much all 3 days, all day, all 3 days. Sat there and I really got to know that spot. I would just kind of follow the fish around as they would move in or out or up and down throughout the day. And it was really cool. I actually learned a lot about ledge fishing this week on Lake Guntersville. All right, so we'll start over here and go through some of my slower stuff. This is kind of my slower side, and then I had a treble hook side over here, but we'll start on this side. Let's see, let's go in here. What we got? This right here is your tried and true Carolina rig. Can't beat the Carolina rig. I caught a couple big fish on this. My biggest fish from day 3 came on the Carolina rig. Caught a couple key keepers on day 2 on the Carolina rig. So we'll start all the way back here. I got a favorite Hex 7.6 heavy. I got 20-pound Seaguar Tatsu fluorocarbon. And then we run it down here, and I got a 3/4 ounce Epic Tungsten Carolina rig weight. Actually, I put an Epic Tungsten bobber stopper on there as well, just to keep that weight from sliding way up. I got a bead on there, and then we go to a swivel. After the swivel, I was doing 15-pound Seaguar Tatsu fluorocarbon. Come down here, I got a Trocar TK 100. That's just a round bend worm hook in the 4/0 size. And then I was taking the Guggen Trench Hog, green pumpkin, dipping the tails a little bit in chartreuse, and just dragging that real slow and just letting that trench hog just do its thing, just flap right in their face, and they couldn't resist it and they would eat it. And it turned out to be a key player. You know, I'm not really a Carolina rig guy. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really throw the Carolina rig a whole lot, but every once in a while you got to pick up the old ball and chain and catch a few fish on it, and we were able to do that on Guntersville. Next up, we just had a big worm. This is just on a big 3/4 ounce shaky head, football style. Not even sure who makes it. I think they might even be custom made. And then we got a big mag trick worm on there. Drug him around, but never caught any fish on him in the tournament. It was just another bait to pick up in my rotation. All right, what else we got? Next up is this guy right here. If you watch my Chickamauga videos, you've seen I put this guy to use right here, and this was a key player again on Guntersville. You know, I caught my biggest fish of the week of the tournament on day 1 on the hair jig, and along with I think 3 or 4 other fish I weighed in. So the hair jig was a key player for me as well. Throwing him on the favorite Hex 7.5 medium heavy 15-pound Seaguar Invisex, and a favorite Soleus XCS 7.3 to 1 gear ratio. and that is the shuttlecock hair jig. I think it's 5/8 ounce, and it's just, that's the one you want to be throwing. It just catches big ones. All right, what else we got here? We got a Swimbait. It's missing the Swimbait, of course. I think I had a white bass rip it off yesterday afternoon and never rigged another one on, but it's that is the Bass Cave Tackle Deadhead Screw Lock. That's a 1/2 ounce with a 6/0 hook. I was putting that 4.8-inch saucy swimmer on there and just slow rolling that over the ledge, and every once in a while one would mess up and bite the Swimbait. I was throwing him on the 7'5" medium heavy hex as well. Really the same setup as the hair jig, favorite Soleus XCS and 15-pound Seaguar and Vizex. It was perfect for that Swimbait. All right, what else we got here? We got a big old spoon. No, this isn't even the big one. I changed out. I was throwing a couple different spoons. I never caught a fish on it all week, but I kept trying the spoon because I know, one, other guys were catching them on them, and two, it just has the potential to catch those really big fish. So I was throwing, I don't even know what brand or where I got these spoons, so I know nothing about spoons. I'm really not a spoon fisherman. I added this little thing on the top. It is a Trocar, it's called an assist keeper hook. It's just kind of an extra stinger hook on your spoons. And then of course you got to make sure you have a good treble hook on the back. So I tied up a couple Trocar treble hooks for that right there. So I was throwing the spoons on the favorite Pro Series. This is the 7.6 heavy. This is actually the Andy Morgan Goat Series rod. And I was throwing it on 20-pound Seaguar and Vizex fluorocarbon, favorite Soleus XCS. You want a fast gear ratio on that spoon, and you're just ripping that thing up in front of their face, and eventually one either screws up and eats it or they get out of the way. And it was more of the latter for me this week. But I had it on the deck. Next up, we got my little Ned rig. Throw him all over the place on the Tennessee River when the fishing gets tough. That is the Bass Cave Tackle football head. It is a 3/8 ounce with a 2/0 hook. Fits those little Ned rig style baits. Excellent. This was just the big TRD from Z-Man. Throwing that on my spinning rod. This is the favorite Hex 7.2 medium heavy. We got 20-pound Seaguar Smackdown braid, and then I was going to a 10-pound gold label leader this week just because I wanted a little bit lighter line. The water's pretty clear here on Guntersville, and I wanted to try and finesse them a little bit. So I had two finesse setups. I had the Ned rig, and then of course you got to have the tried and true drop shot that catches them all over the country, especially when the fishing gets tough on the Tennessee River. They always eat the drop shot. Same exact setup equipment wise as the Ned rig, but we get down here, we got the Trocar TK180 2/0 drop shot hook. We got a 3/8 ounce Epic Tungsten teardrop style weight. And then I was just putting your standard hand poured worm, Morning Dawn Keller, a couple different Kellers I rotated through, but they just eat that all over the country. Always can catch them on the drop shot. All right, so really on my other side, I had a whole bunch of crankbaits, bunch of different brands, bunch of different depths. And we were throwing all of those on the fat glass. If I could get them untangled without hooking myself. So we have the favorite fat glass, 7'4", medium heavy. Hook in my boat. There it goes. So Phantom fat glass, 7'4", medium heavy cranking rod. It's excellent for those deep diving crankbaits. It's such a perfect action. It can handle these big deep diving crankbaits, but you're not going to overpower it. You're not going to lose those fish. The rod does the job excellently fighting those fish on crankbaits. Like I said, I had 5 different crankbaits rigged up, and I would really rotate through them and burn them as fast as I could and just try and get those fish to react. All 5 of these had 12-pound Seaguar and Vizex. That is the best cranking line out there right now. There is no better than 12-pound and Vizex. It's super thin relative to its size, so it helps keep your bait down deep where it needs to be. and you're able to wrench those fish in. It's very abrasion resistant, fishing around shell bars. So 12-pound Invisex is the way to go. But we had anything from an 8XD to a Little John DD. We had a 6XD. We had a Rapala DT20. I mean, we had a bunch of deep diving crankbaits here, and caught a few key fish on the crankbaits. All right, we got down to the last couple here. We have a jerkbait. You guys know me, you know I love throwing a jerkbait, and I can't go anywhere without having a jerkbait on the deck. I actually weighed in a couple fish this week on the jerkbait, which kind of surprised me. You know, I didn't really expect it, being on the Tennessee River, the fish out deep, but every once in a while, something would happen in the lake and those fish would just rise up off the bottom, start suspending, start chasing bait, and I'd pick up that jerkbait and I'd be able to pick a couple off. Last but not least, this was for that same sort of situation. I had a topwater. For whenever those fish would come up schooling, you know, I could cast this bait a long ways and get it to those fish that were schooling. And that's just a Bagley knocker bee. You know, it's real loud. It makes that knocking sound whenever you're working it around. It casts extremely well, and you're able to get it out to those fish that are schooling and catch a few of them. I was able to catch a couple during the tournament on the topwater right here. I was throwing him on the Favorite Pro Series 7-foot medium heavy. I got 15-pound monofilament on this for my topwater. You know, you can't throw fluorocarbon on your topwater because fluorocarbon sinks. So you got to throw that mono. Well, we threw that right there, the little knocker bee, and was able to catch a couple fish on him. But as you can see, that is the end of the juice. That is all the rods and reels I used this week on Lake Guntersville. Like I said earlier, check the description down below for all the links direct to all this tackle. If you're interested in purchasing any of this, Fish USA has a great selection of fishing tackle, not just bass fishing, all things fishing. So head on over to Fish USA, check them all out. Appreciate you guys watching my video. Stay tuned for more stuff on the way. Season's still rolling strong, so we've got a bunch more tournaments coming up. As always, appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.